My name is Tracey Harris, and this is my presentation for LCTR. This spring I had an opportunity to attend a workshop that had to do with homelessness, and we talked about a book by Ruby Payne called Bridges Out of Poverty. And it talks about hidden rules in society and how those rules are linked to the economic class that we were raised in. There's wealthy, there's middle class, and there's poverty. And it talked about how you have to overcome certain rules in order to improve your situation. And I started to think about how those rules would apply in a school, where schools mostly are run according to the rules of the middle class. A lot of times you have students in schools who come from poverty, and so their understanding of life and the way things go is different than what we teach in schools. And so my presentation today is about those hidden rules. And she says in her book, we can neither excuse persons from poverty nor scold them for not knowing. As professionals, we must learn to teach them and provide support, insistence, and expectations. And so I think it's important for us as teachers to be able to understand these rules so that when we have children in our classrooms who are struggling with these obstacles, we can help them to overcome them. So we're going to look at 4 areas today that I think stand as obstacles for these children and ways that maybe we can help them overcome. The first one I want to talk about is education. There are 3 different views on education according to class. The first one is the wealthy class. They view education as necessary for making contacts or connections that will be used later on in life, like social connections, political connections. The middle class views education as crucial for success. If you want to climb the ladder of success, you have to have a good education. The third, poverty, they value education, but to them it's almost abstract. It's not seen as something that's necessary. Oftentimes people in poverty have learned that they can get by without an education, and so they're not going to pass that on to their children, that there's an importance in education. The conflict comes in where children from poverty don't necessarily take school as seriously as a teacher would. And so we need to help children overcome that by showing them small ways that school is important. Just stress small ways every day. You learned that, so you learned that here at school. This is how it can help you in your life. So we need to find little ways every day to help start ingraining that into them, that school is important and that they will learn skills in school that are important for them. The next one that we're going to talk about is success, or the driving force, or their motivation in life. Now, the wealthy view success through financial, political, and social connections. For the middle class, work and achievement represents success. If you work hard and achieve something, then you're successful, and that motivates them to move forward. People in poverty, really their life is more about survival and just getting by every day, and the relationships in their life. The conflict comes in because a lot of children in poverty feel very helpless, and they feel like they don't have a lot of control. And so for us as teachers, we need to find ways for them to feel stability in their lives. And if we have a set routine every day, that helps them start to feel some stability. We start to help them feel like they can get by. There is a place in their life where there is some control. The third rule that I want to talk about today is destiny, and the different rules that apply with destiny. The first, for the wealthy, is called noblesse oblige. They feel like because they have so much that they are obliged to help others around them. The middle class believes in choice. We believe that you can change your future with good decisions, and that if you start in a bad place, the things that you do and the way that you act, you can overcome things that happen in your life. For children in poverty, poverty believes in fate. They believe that things happen to them, there's not much they can do about it. And so for them, it's important for us as teachers to help them understand that they can overcome by making good choices. And we can do that in the classroom by helping them set small goals and helping them learn that they can set goals and they can achieve certain things. And we start small and work our way to bigger goals. And it helps them understand that they can make good choices and they can improve their situation. The last one that I want to talk about is language. And before we talk about the rules of language, I want to explain what's called the registers of language, because there are different ways that we talk in society that are appropriate for different situations, and they do affect the rules of the hidden rules of class. The first one is frozen language. It's language that's always the same. For example, if the Lord's Prayer or your wedding vows, they're said the same every single time. The next one is formal. It's the standard sentence syntax and word choice of work and school. And so that's what we would use in a school situation or in a business setting. In order to succeed in business or in the workforce, you need to be able to communicate in the formal register. You have complete sentences and you use specific word choice. Consultative is the formal register when it's used in a conversation. It can be a little less formal, it's not quite as direct. The casual register is language between friends. It's a much smaller vocabulary, and the word choice is general. Often a lot of slang is used in casual conversation. And the last is intimate. It's the language between lovers or twins. It's also the language of sexual harassment, and this is used very rarely. So, for the wealthy, the formal register is used. Language is about networking. It's about making connections with people. For the middle class, the formal register is also used, and language is about negotiation. It's about making your way through, about communicating and achieving things. For poverty, the casual register is used, and language is about survival. And so obviously the conflict is going to come in class then when you have a teacher who expects a student to be able to speak and communicate in a formal register, because that's what's taught in school. But you have a child from poverty who has only been raised here in the casual register. There may even be times where a child from poverty doesn't understand what the teacher is asking of them. So it's important for the teacher to be able to teach that child how to use the formal register. They're going to be able to have that in order to succeed in school and once they get out of school. But I think it's also important at this point to make sure that the teacher knows to respect the child and the type of language that they use. And there are instances where the child can be allowed to use the casual register. There was a teacher who taught in an inner city in Philadelphia at an inner city school, and she allowed the children to use their casual register when they were writing in their personal journals or when they were writing poetry and expressing themselves. But when it came to classroom work and written papers, she expected them to use the formal register. So that's the last rule. And the conclusion that I've come to is that if we understand these differences and we learn to overcome, we can learn to help the children overcome them, then we can learn to find a way to help them succeed in school. And so, do you have any questions or comments?
Those children in poverty, what methods do you use to get them to use the formal register? What kinds of programs do you think we should use in our schools to get them to do that?
Well, I think any reading program that's going to be used in school is already going to employ the formal register. And so I think it starts first by example, just by always modeling the correct way to say things. And start small. If they say something wrong, then you can correct them and say, this is the way that we say that. And just very gently correct them every time. Eventually they'll start to learn that that's the way that you expect them to speak. I think that's probably the best way to start.
Okay.
Anything else?
Great presentation.
Great. Thank you very much.